Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 1984 Christmas creature comedy Gremlins. And the film opens with would-be inventor Randall Peltzer visiting a Chinatown antique store where he hopes to find a Christmas present for his son Billy. Inside the store, Randall encounters a small, furry creature called a mogwai and is instantly convinced that this is the only present that will do for his son. Unfortunately, the owner of the store, Mr. Wing, refuses to sell the mogwai. There's always ways around things like that, though, isn't there? Mr. Wing's grandson is more easily swayed by Peltzer's cash offer. The youngster sneaks the mogwai out to him, though he does warn Randall that the animal must be well cared for, with three important rules that absolutely have to be followed. Do not expose the mogwai to light, especially sunlight. Do not let it come into contact with water. And above all, never feed it after midnight. Gizmo, as they name the mogwai, really is a cute little critter, and it is every bit the hit present with Billy that his father had hoped. The young man earnestly promises to follow the three critical rules, and because he's a responsible young man of roughly 20 years of age, not some punk kid, he follows through on that promise and nothing goes wrong at all. The end. Yeah, we all know that's not how it's going to go. After all, seeing what happens once Billy goofs up is kind of the whole point of the film, isn't it? So naturally, it really doesn't take too long before Billy has broken all three of the rules thanks to a series of mistakes that will definitely make this a Christmas he and his neighbours never forget, assuming they survive. Gremlins was prominently marketed as presented by Steven Spielberg to cash in on the director's prominence and success, and to this day the film remains associated with his name, even though he neither wrote nor directed it. He was an executive producer, which basically means that he was mostly a money man, though to be fair, it does appear he had some input to specific script elements and to casting. Now, the connection to Spielberg certainly helped the film, but I don't think it did the man himself any harm to be linked to it in turn. It's an enjoyable movie, and it was a big success. Commercially, in fact, it was a monster hit, pun fully intended. It recouped some 20 times its production budget at the box office, and critical response was also mostly positive, though there were some criticisms of the film's thin plot and the amount of violence included in a PG-rated film. Those criticisms actually led to the film's most lasting legacy in the movie industry, because in response to them and to similar complaints made about his Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Spielberg suggested that the Motion Picture Association of America alter its rating system, which it did within 2 months of Gremlins' release, creating the PG-13 rating that is still in use today. Something that didn't draw all that much attention at the time of release, at least that I recall, was that the three rules of Mogwai care are somewhat dubious in the amount of sense that they make. There was clearly some kind of reaction to them over time, though, because by the time the 1990 sequel came out, it included an entire scene entirely based around minor characters making fun of the rules and picking holes in them. And those holes were deliberately taken to the extreme, including questions such as, what if you're on a plane and you cross the international date line? But there are fundamental issues with these rules. Don't expose it to light. Well, okay, but for human beings to see, there has to be some light. So technically, if you can see the mogwai, you're breaking the rule. Don't give it water. Well, okay, but water's like constantly in the air and, in food. I mean, how does it drink? What about foods that have a lot of juice in them? Because water is a constituent of those. Similarly, technically, I mean, it's always after a midnight. I mean, right now I'm recording this at 11:24 a.m., which means it's 11 hours and 24 minutes after midnight. So the third rule is actually impossible to keep. That's obviously not the intent of the rule, though, so let's assume it just means not too soon after midnight, but then how long is too soon? And the real answer to all this, of course, is that these are fairy tale rules, mythological rules, like vampires not being visible mirrors. Trying to apply reality and physics to them isn't really the point or all that important. I think the rules do what they need to do in the film, even though when you think about them they don't make sense, which is that they give what at first glance seem to be relatively easy to understand and follow instructions, even though they actually aren't. They are simple in, we hear them and we think, oh yeah, don't do those things, but then when you think about them in detail you realise, of course, you can't not break them. which perhaps is the point. Now, one of the keys to Gremlins' success was the quality of the creature design. Gizmo the Mogwai is very cute indeed, fully justifying both Randall and Billy's immediate "I must have it" reactions. There's a reason that Gizmo dolls are still available for purchase even today, though there hasn't been a new Gremlins film in over 30 years. And the Gremlins themselves are also very well designed. It's believable that they are evolutions of the Mogwai, and they're also a well-judged balance of ugly cute, which allows them to be humorous even in the midst of their malevolent antics, but also menacing. They look fierce enough that even with their small stature, it's believable that they might be a threat to a human, particularly if they should have the advantage of numbers. And the animatronics that bring the designs are also very well executed. They're not as fluid or dynamic as top quality modern effects, of course. We're talking about a movie that will have its 40th birthday next year, but they're very well implemented and effective. I definitely take them ahead of low or even mid-tier CGI. As physically real objects, they have weight and impact on the screen that is often absent from more modern monsters. I very much enjoyed Gremlins, and I think that if a black comedy involving nastily mischievous little monsters is in your wheelhouse, you should definitely give the film a try. But I do want to emphasise that this is a horror comedy where the emphasis is very much on the comedy part of the equation. Gremlins is anarchic and silly, and despite its body count, I doubt its villains would give any but the timidest of audience members any real chills. In fact, the most unsettling scene has nothing at all to do with the little green monsters. And despite the qualms over its violence in 1984, I doubt you'll even really notice that element of it either. It's deliberately cartoonish in its depiction of its violence, which helps keep it from being too impactful. And I don't mean any of this as a criticism, because I don't think this film is aiming to be genuinely scary. It's aiming to be a fun romp with just a sliver of darkness to spice it up. And in my opinion, it hits that mark really well and deserved its success. Next time, we're going to look at the effectively creepy 1974 offering All the Kind Strangers. But that is indeed next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've seen today's movie, let me know what you thought of it.